Level 1. The conscript. You are 18 years old and the Russian Federation requires 12 months of your life. Conscription is not optional. The military registration office, the Voenkomat, sends a summons and you report. You are processed into the armed forces the way raw material is processed in a factory, quickly, without sentiment, and with the assumption that the individual is subordinate to the system in all things. You are a ryadovoy, a private, the lowest rank in the Russian military hierarchy. You are assigned to a unit, and the unit may be infantry, artillery, armor, or signals. If your physical fitness scores were exceptional, and your psychological evaluation indicated the correct combination of aggression and obedience, you may be selected for a Spetsnaz brigade. Spetsnaz, Specjalnego Nazначenia, means special purpose. The term covers a constellation of units across the Russian military and security services. GRU Spetsnaz operates under the main intelligence directorate of the General Staff. FSB units include Alpha Group and Wimpel. There are Naval Spetsnaz units and the newer Special Operations Forces Command, the KSSO, established in 2009 and modeled after Western SOF structures. But the original and most numerous are the GRU Spetsnaz brigades, formed in 1949 during the early Cold War to conduct reconnaissance and sabotage behind NATO lines in the event of a war everyone expected and no one wanted. The concept was developed by Ilya Starinov, often considered the grandfather of Spetsnaz, who fought as a guerrilla against the Germans in the Great Patriotic War and codified what he learned into a doctrine of unconventional warfare emphasizing flexibility, speed, and the ability to operate deep behind enemy lines with minimal support. You are not Starinov. You are a conscript from Novosibirsk or Rostov or a village in Dagestan. You have been selected because you are physically strong, psychologically resilient, and because the unit needs bodies and your body tested well. That is how it begins, not with ideology, but with a test score. Level 2. The training. Basic military training in Russia is shorter and more brutal than its Western equivalents. The culture is different. The Russian military does not invest in the individual soldier the way the American or British military does, because it has historically operated on the principle that mass compensates for individual quality and that suffering builds cohesion faster than education. You learn to march. You learn to shoot the AK-74 or the newer AK-12. You learn basic fieldcraft, patrolling, camouflage, and land navigation. Then the Spetsnaz-specific training begins, and the intensity increases by an order of magnitude. You train in weapons handling across every platform the brigade operates: assault rifles, sniper rifles, RPGs, grenade launchers, and crew-served weapons. You learn fast roping from helicopters, explosives training, demolition charges, improvised devices, and breaching techniques. Airborne training is essential, as the preferred method of Spetsnaz insertion is parachute assault from fixed-wing aircraft, and every operator must qualify. You train in hand-to-hand combat, primarily Sambo, the Russian martial art developed in the 1920s that combines judo, wrestling, and striking into a system designed for military application. Naval units train in combat diving. Units assigned to mountainous regions train in alpine techniques for operations in the Caucasus and Central Asia. Emergency medical training is conducted with the understanding that behind enemy lines there is no medevac helicopter, no field hospital, and no resupply. The man next to you is the only medical infrastructure that exists. You learn tracking and patrolling techniques. Spetsnaz operators are trained to walk single file in each other's footsteps, so the size and direction of the patrol cannot be determined from tracks. Specialized boots with reversed soles have been developed to disguise the direction of movement. During the Cold War, some units trained with boots that mimicked the tread patterns of NATO footwear. There is also the training that does not appear in the official curriculum: Dedovshchina, the hazing system that pervades the Russian military and is particularly severe in Spetsnaz units. The institutional culture often regards extreme physical punishment as a legitimate tool for building toughness. Senior conscripts brutalize junior conscripts. It is illegal. It is universal. It is the shadow curriculum that produces men who can endure what no official training program sanctions. Level 3. The contractnik. Your 12 months of conscription end, and you face a choice. You can leave the military and return to the civilian economy, which in many parts of Russia offers limited prospects, or you can sign a contract, become a kontraktnik, a professional soldier, and remain in a Spetsnaz brigade as a career serviceman. The pay is modest by Western standards but significant by Russian ones. A contract Spetsnaz soldier earns between 40,000 and 80,000 rubles per month in base pay, with combat bonuses that can double or triple that figure during deployments. Since 2013, under reforms initiated by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, the Russian military has shifted toward a professional contract force, and GRU Spetsnaz brigades are now composed primarily of contract personnel rather than conscripts. You sign the contract. You are still a ryadovoy, or perhaps a yefreitor, a private first class, one stripe, the first rung above the floor, but you are now a professional. The training deepens and you specialize. Snipers must engage stationary targets at 600 meters and moving targets at 500 meters with lateral movement. Demolition specialists learn to construct explosive devices from commercially available materials that could be found in hardware stores in any country where the brigade might operate. Communication specialists learn encrypted radio procedures, signals, intelligence collection, and the operation of equipment that is often a generation behind what Western SOF units carry but functions in conditions where more sophisticated technology fails. Reconnaissance specialists learn long-range surveillance, target acquisition, pattern of life analysis, and the art of remaining unseen in hostile territory for 48 to 72 hours with minimal food, water, and no communication with headquarters. The brigade structure organizes you into a battalion-sized independent special designation detachment, an OSPN of approximately 500 personnel divided into company-sized units. Your world narrows to the detachment. The men you train with are the men you will deploy with and the men you may die with. The bond is forged not through ceremony but through shared suffering. Level 4, the sergeant. You are promoted. Junior sergeant or sergeant. In Western militaries, the NCO Corps is the backbone of the army. In Russia, the NCO tradition is fundamentally different. There is no equivalent of the career NCO who spends decades accumulating institutional knowledge and mentoring generations of soldiers. The Russian sergeant is simply a soldier with marginally more training and marginally more authority. This is not an oversight. It is a structural feature of a military that concentrates authority in the officer corps and treats enlisted ranks primarily as executors of orders rather than independent decision-makers. In Spetsnaz, however, the gap is narrower. The nature of special operations, small teams operating autonomously behind enemy lines, demands initiative at every level. As a sergeant in a Spetsnaz detachment, you lead a small team. You plan patrol routes and make decisions about movement, concealment, and engagement that in conventional units would be made by officers. The wars in Chechnya demonstrated this reality. In the First Chechen War beginning in 1994, Spetsnaz units were committed to combat alongside conventional forces that were poorly trained, poorly led, and unprepared for urban warfare. They suffered heavy casualties. In the Second Chechen War beginning in 1999, lessons were absorbed. Spetsnaz units operated in small teams conducting targeted operations against separatist leaders with far greater precision. Level 5, the senior sergeant. You are now a starshina, the highest enlisted rank before the warrant officer tier. You have been in the brigade for 5 to 8 years. You have deployed to Chechnya, Syria, or both. In Syria, beginning in 2015, Russian Spetsnaz units operated alongside Syrian government forces and sometimes independently, conducting reconnaissance, target acquisition for airstrikes, and direct action missions. The deployments were small but impactful, providing intelligence that guided precision munitions and ground truth that satellite imagery cannot capture. You have learned what combat teaches that training cannot simulate, that plans dissolve on contact with the enemy, that communication fails at the worst possible moment, and that the man who was beside you seconds ago may no longer be there. The mission does not pause for grief. You continue. Experience carries weight. Junior soldiers look to you the way you once looked to those above you, with respect and weariness. The system does not encourage public questioning of orders. It produces soldiers who endure orders and carry their consequences inward, where they accumulate quietly over time. Level 6, the warrant officer. The rank was abolished in 2008 under reforms led by Defense Minister Anatoly Serdyukov, who eliminated approximately 140,000 warrant officer positions in an effort to streamline the force. The resulting gaps in technical expertise and leadership were so severe that the rank was reinstated in 2013 under Sergei Shoigu. As a warrant officer, you exist between enlisted ranks and commissioned officers. You are a technical specialist with years of operational experience. You train junior soldiers, maintain the unit's technical capabilities, and serve as institutional memory. When officers rotate and conscripts cycle through, you remain. You understand where equipment is stored, how it functions, and how to repair it under field conditions when the supply chain fails. Level 7, the officer. You are now a commissioned officer. You earned your commission at the Ryazan Guard's Higher Airborne Command School, where officers are trained for both the airborne forces and Spetsnaz units. The program combines academic military education with intense physical and tactical training. You graduate as a junior lieutenant and are assigned to a Spetsnaz brigade, where you command a platoon-sized element. You are in your early 20s. You have formal training, but many of your soldiers have more experience than you. The relationship between a young officer and his experienced warrant officers and sergeants determines the effectiveness of the unit. If you listen, you learn. If you do not, the consequences are immediate and tangible. Level 8, the command. You rise through the ranks, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel. Responsibilities expand. A captain commands a company. A lieutenant colonel may command a detachment. A colonel commands an entire brigade. In theory, Spetsnaz doctrine emphasizes deep reconnaissance and sabotage. In practice, especially in recent conflicts, these units have often been used in roles far removed from their intended purpose. Since 2022, Spetsnaz units have been deployed in conventional combat roles, including assault infantry operations, resulting in significant losses. Command at this level involves exercising authority within constraints that are often rigid and sometimes disconnected from operational reality. Level 9, the veteran. You leave the service, or the service leaves you. Retirement benefits are modest. The transition to civilian life is not strongly supported. There is no comprehensive equivalent to Western veteran systems. You are 35 or 40 years old. Your body carries the evidence of your service. Some veterans find work in private security or private military companies such as the Wagner Group and its successors, operating in regions like Syria, Libya, and parts of Africa. Others return to civilian life, often in difficult economic conditions. The system no longer directs you, but its imprint remains. Level 10, the cycle. Somewhere in Russia, an 18-year-old reports to a voyenkomat. He received his summons weeks ago. He has heard of Spetsnaz. He has seen the demonstrations, the images, the representation of strength and elite identity. He does not see the full process. He does not see the outcomes. He reports. He is processed. He is assigned. The cycle begins.